Welcome to Love and Trauma, the real deal. I'm Danielle Sebastian, best-selling author, coach, and yes, I've been through the marriage trenches myself. This show is all about how to actually deal with trauma in relationships and make it work without losing your mind. If you're ready for honest talk, no fluff, and tools that cut through the noise, tune in, because let's face it, love can be a bit of a mess, but it's a mess worth figuring out. This is Love and Trauma, the real deal.
Okay, friends, have you ever thought about money, struggled to keep your mindset strong when life hit hard, or wondered how to break free from the trauma patterns that just keep showing up in your family? If you said yes to any of those, then you are in the right place. Today's Love and Trauma, the real deal, highlights many of my favorite moments from three incredible conversations that I've had this month. So, first up, I'm going to talk with Julia Myers. She's a pharmacist like me, an MBA, and she's the founder of Generational Wisdom. And she showed us how money doesn't have to be a battlefield. She breaks down the patterns we inherit, the triggers that fuel financial fights, and how we can actually turn money into a source of peace, safety, and even legacy. Then you're going to hear from William Branum. He is a decorated Navy SEAL veteran who spent 26 years mastering leadership and resilience under the most extreme conditions. He shares tools he used in the battlefield, but also into his retirement, which he says was one of the hardest battles that he's ever had to face. And finally, we're talking to Pia Valenzuela Escudero. She is a trailblazer in trauma-informed care. She takes us deep into the work of healing intergenerational wounds, and she reveals how cycles of trauma pass down silently and what it really takes to disrupt them so our kids and communities can thrive. So why should you stay to the very end? Because I'm wrapping up this episode with my three biggest takeaways that you can start pulling into practice today to bring more peace, hope, and healing into your life and relationships. So let's dive into my favorite moments.
I like to say is called the belief backpack. So when you were a kid, your family packed your backpack for you. They literally bought probably that backpack, and you didn't get a say until you had an opinion about which one was cool and which one was no longer cool to take to school. And so your parents are putting in their flavor of generational influences, their flavor of cultural influences. You probably got a credit card or a bank account right where your parents were, right?
Yeah.
And when you think of social things, you think of like, okay, well, this is what my parents bought as a vehicle or drove as a vehicle, so I'm probably going to do that. Or where you live, is it a house? Is it an apartment? Is it any sort of housing situation? And as a kid, your parents pack that backpack for you, and it's heavy. It's lopsided. It's lumpy. Think of these kids going to school right now that this backpack's oversized for their emotional container of their body, to an extent that there could be some scarcity there. There could be some fear. There could be some shame around, my backpack's bigger than yours, and that means it's heavier, or my backpack's bigger than yours, which makes me better than you. So think of all the things that kids do as just amplified by money. And as you shift into adulthood and you're sitting on this podcast right now and you're like, okay, I've got all these money triggers, take a deep breath. Figure out, what are those beliefs that serve you? What are those beliefs that say, I really like that tradition of going out on Christmas Eve and leaving a huge tip for the waiter or the waitress. Or I really like the tradition of serving together as a family or making a vacation a priority. Figure out what you like. Let's keep in your backpack those family traditions, right? Those cultural traditions. $2 bills are something that I still use when I travel across the world and tip with, because that's something my dad gave us growing up. They were in the Easter eggs. That was just what we did. It's $2 bills. Now I give out $2 bills and they're like, is this fake money?
Yeah.
Oh, it's real. Like it's a cool thing. So that's a tradition
Yeah.
I chose to keep in my belief backpack. And then we take a bigger exhale and we say, what doesn't serve us? What are those things that maybe were the mantras or the words that were meant to be helpful, or they just didn't even mean to have meaning at all, but they sat with us? We want to take those out of our backpack. We want to say, I am never going to say I can't afford it again. Not to myself, not to my loved ones, not to anybody around me. I'm going to say, I choose differently. Or I am going to have to save for XYZ months to be able to buy this. Like there's a literal side of that logical equation, and then there's the emotional. And there's the side of you that says, my money story is full of shame because I had a lot of debt, or I live in debt, or I have overswiped my credit card because of whatever circumstance or situation. We've got to let that go. We've got to start with that clean slate that says debt isn't bad, debt isn't good. Money isn't bad, money isn't good. Your self worth is not your net worth, and vice versa. Your net worth is not your self worth. And so when you are building up this belief backpack, often as females will say, you can't earn as much as a man, or you can be the stay home partner and then you can be the earning partner, or whatever those narratives are. Think of the role modeling that we're having now in our own families for the next generation. Because, like it or not, we are by default packing the next generation's belief backpack with
Yeah.
all of our own stuff. So, all of that work, all of the emotions, it all starts with you to say, what do I want in my backpack? Let's try it on. Let's wear it for a while. I am full of wealth. I'm full of abundance. We're going to get rid of rich is bad, rich is good, kind of the judgment decisions, and understand that everybody has a money story. Everybody has different levels of risk and tolerance based on what they were exposed to.
And I think you were going to tell us which of those four is what would you say
The
is the
strongest influence.
strongest? Yes.
3 out of 4 times, especially with the families that I work with, it is actually the family influence that is your first memory of money. It's usually with your immediate family and your loved ones. Your first traumas or triggers come from your family. And then third, your source of income usually came from your family. So for the most part, your family influences are the strongest, which is both a blessing and a burden for us as parents, because now the roles are reversed and we received all of those influences and now we're passing them on. And we need to be thoughtful and intentional, maybe kind of like emotional wakes. We want to be aware of what our emotional wake is and the story that we have. And there's no shame in it. Everyone has this background. It is what it is.
Yeah. And tell me what you see with that, because I would say, the couples that I work with, it just seems to be like the pendulum swung too far either way.
Yes.
Is that what you see?
I
Like on that
do.
family
I do.
influence?
And I love the Dave Ramsey teachings because
Okay.
it's so simple and we think of baby steps and we think of debt is
Yeah.
bad. And with that, though, comes labels. You're a saver, you're a spender.
Yes.
Instead of saying, my strengths are in finding great deals, or my strengths are in being strategic and budgeting. So it almost feels like a label that you then are self-fulfilling. Well, I'm the spender, so I guess I can't be trusted with a credit card, instead of saying, okay, those are your strengths or those are your tendencies. How do we meet that need of yours in a way that is healthy and supportive?
Okay.
We find fully restrictive budgets to be very detrimental, but also no budgets to also be just as dangerous.
Right.
Same with risk tolerance. And often, most people are avoiding these conversations because there's this underlying tension of we don't have enough. And that usually comes from one partner or the other. So instead of saying we don't have enough, especially in the entrepreneurial world or in the YouTube world, how many views are enough? How many followers are enough? It's a ever moving target that never ends. Has anybody ever started backwards to say, what do we want it to look like? And then how do we get there? So just a gap analysis, right? Everybody wants to be healthy. Well, what specifically are we willing to do to get healthy? Does that mean we're doing A, B, and C? or collaboratively, we're deciding now we're going to do XYZ. And so when we come from a similar approach of a united front, united in values of saying these are what are important to us as a family, and these are the things that we say no to because we think those other things are more important, rather than a you bought this or you saved that kind of an oppositional, is the approach is what really matters. Everyone's united. Nobody wants to run out of money. End of story. Like no one's ever said, I
You
want
have
to
the
run out
same
of money.
goal. Yeah, we all have the same goal.
Yeah. So if we all know that we
Yeah.
don't want to run out and we always
Yeah.
want more, we need to get really clear on what is that? What does that look like? And
Mhm.
what realistically does our income say that our lifestyle can look like?
I'm curious because you talked about kids a little bit and taking your money wounds essentially and passing them on to your children. What do you recommend as you start to identify, okay, these are my stories that I have around money, and adjust those so that you don't pass it on to your kids?
Ooh, I've got 3 ways that I like to reframe no.
Yeah.
Even though no is a complete answer, right?
Okay.
No can
Uh-huh.
sometimes feel disarming or can feel like off-putting in the way that a 3-year-old asks for something and you just say no. Is, like there's probably not a lot of conversation there. But as they get older, we want them not just to know the answer, but to be learning the skills of decision making. So always follow your answer of no, no because. No, because we're saving for family vacation. Or yes, because that is aligned with what we really value. Or, you know, no, because is one of my favorite things. Another one that they'll say, but I need it, but I really need it. And then I like to reframe that and say, is that a want or a need? For us as big kids, like, how many times it's so hard to go to
Yeah.
the Target store and not go into that very first spot that says, I'm a deal, buy me, right?
Yeah.
So is that a need or a want? And
Hmm.
sometimes just having that conversation out loud teaches the next generation what are those practical skills that are going to prepare you for when I'm not next to you and that money is coming out of your pocket. And then
Yeah.
finally, well, you can afford it. You have enough money, right? Have we heard that one
Mm.
before, parents? Because I
Oh
have.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I
All the
like
time.
to go back to either one or two of no, we're not going to buy it because we're prioritizing that. Or everything we have is because of the teamwork that we have built as a family. And we're going to make purchases and spending decisions in alignment with that as a family. And is that in the best interest of everyone? And often everybody likes to be blessed, everybody likes to be surprised. And it's okay for us to tell our kids, not right now. Or let's see if the grocery fairy wants to deliver you some more goodies to the new college freshman that just moved in, right? Or finding ways to bless and surprise and delight rather than just always saying yes or always saying no. I love rewarding for value and I love rewarding for results. So, jobs that the kids have or the ways that we earned money growing up are so very different.
Yes.
80% of the jobs that are out there today are all cognitive. They're not physical labor of babysitting,
Yeah.
mowing grass, washing cars. So when we're giving our kids chores and an allowance, it just is basically saying, work on your physical labor skills. Like, that's great, but that's not real world. So I will pay them for reading, for watching YouTube books, or YouTube, like TED Talks, reading
Hmm.
books, calling customer service things. Like, I pay them for skills and for outcomes. And then, as an age appropriate way, when they say, you can afford it, I actually say, I think you can afford that. Or what are you willing to do to work to earn that? And when the bank of mom and dad starts to wean off and their money now has to come to the table or to the register or the virtual checkout machine on Amazon, they start to think differently about it. So, those are 3 ways that I like to reframe kind of that enabling tendency that we have as parents from the most genuine place in our heart that says, I want my kids to have it better than I did. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to remind ourselves that we are where we are because of the hard that we went through. So
Hmm.
That is
What if
ways
you're,
that I like to reframe it.
yeah. And what if you're somebody who's a scarcity person, or I'm a spender, right? And
Mhm.
the pendulum is that you may, you know, want to hold on to every single penny. How do you work together as a couple when it's pretty extreme?
I like to figure out safe ways to test your theories.
Oh,
So,
okay.
safe ways to introduce risk. So, say you're from a scarcity perspective, or say you're
Yeah.
from a not enough or an insufficiency kind of
Yes.
a quadrant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that the act of spending money can be triggering.
Yes.
So, how do we make that the opposite of triggering, but empowering? But
Mm.
sometimes that just means we need to make it less scary. So it might mean that maybe we have $100 bill and we choose to break it into 420s. And we just carry around 420s and we build that trust muscle with ourselves that says, look, it is just a thing. It's not an
Mm.
identity. I also like to talk about when you're from a scarcity mindset, what is that coming from? And what's the motivation of not enough? Is it actual real hunger? Okay, what are we
Yeah.
going to do about that? Is it actual real fatigue? And am I tired? Because the last thing you want to do is be talking with your spouse when you're hungry or you're tired or
Yeah.
you're like stressed and overwhelmed. So, how
Mm.
do we de risk those situations? Don't talk about money on payday if you know the payday is triggering. Talk about it
Mm.
before it comes or after it's all gone. Be like, okay, what are
Yeah.
we going to do differently? Find those neutral spaces and also set a timer. Many times I'm on the side that I'm a overly nerd budget numbers person. I could sit and analyze the most beautiful spreadsheet for an hour. But
Yeah.
if my partner's like, tell me what I need to know, set a timer,
Mm.
win their trust and have a safe 5-minute conversation.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. It's going to take building those habits. But remember, these skills we weren't born with, we had to learn. And that
Yeah.
decision making discernment is going to come with buying something that you wished you didn't and having some purchase regret, but then also not buying something and then being like, I think I missed out too. So
Yeah.
test the opposite emotion that maybe you're so scared of in a safe way. Please don't like bet your life savings in the lottery, all of those sorts of things, but in 5-minute increments, $5 increments, or some sort of just collaborative activities that build that trust. Because when you're united in the trust part, the rest starts to the defenses come down.
Yeah. And I love what you said about kind of plan that figure out the best time to have the conversation. And a lot of questions that I get is why in God's name, Danielle, would I bring up something that I know is loaded, emotionally
Mhm.
loaded when things are going well in my relationship? And I'm like, because that's the only time it can go well
I'll
is when you're
add,
not triggered, right? When you're in
yeah,
a good space. It doesn't have to be Sunday night when you're completely exhausted. If that's not working for you, don't do that, right?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I'll add, what's it costing you by not bringing
Yeah.
it up? Like
Yeah.
if you really think about it, if you really are like honest with yourself of, is this ever going to change? Not if you don't bring it up. And it's the least resistance to bring it up when it's in a safe, calm, good environment than when it is high tense, high stress, high fatigue, low appetite.
Go into
Yeah.
combat and we put on our body armor and a helmet and all this other stuff. And oftentimes, you know, we wear it because it can save our life. And then when we come back, we take that armor off, we hang it up, you strip down, we hit the showers, we debrief, we recover, we get ready for the next mission. But in life, we don't do that always. We put this armor on and we just carry it. We go into harm's way and then we come back and we're still carrying the armor and we never and then we're getting tired and we go into harm's way and maybe we put on some more armor and we come back. And now we're just, maybe we're talking to our partner and we're just become defensive, and like they're just trying to talk to us. And now we're defending ourselves, and we haven't done anything wrong. There's nothing to defend. But we feel like we need to defend ourselves off and exposing ourselves and becoming vulnerable so we can find the healing that we actually need.
So tell me what we can do better for veterans. When it's like you're done.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I haven't had this conversation for a while, but there is, the effort that the military puts into you, bringing you into the military is hugely contrasted by the effort they put into putting you out of the military. So in bringing you into the military, it's days and weeks and months of like all the paperwork and the medical stuff, and then getting you up to wherever your boot camp is, your basic training area, and you spend 12 weeks there learning how to be in the military, learning how to not be a civilian anymore. And basically they give you a new identity. On the way out, and it doesn't matter if you're in 4 years or 40 years, you have a 1 week, 5-day class that they teach you. They teach you how to write a resume, and they talk to you about the VA, and that's about it.
I can only imagine.
And how to do a budget. And I'm like, are you kidding?
Dear.
If I'm not able to do a budget at this point in my life, I've made some mistakes along the way. And so that's the if we could figure out a better transition plan for veterans as they leave, that would be phenomenal. Yeah. Even if it was like a list of different, I don't know, industries that, maybe really, I would say start preparing veterans a minimum of a year out.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Oh, wow. And do you know anybody who's doing this out, now for veterans?
There's one nonprofit that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That, they travel around and they basically come and do conferences. It's free to show up, and they just give you tools. Like there were things that I didn't know, like don't get new life insurance now that while you're still in from a civilian organization.
Yeah.
Because your life insurance is going to end. And if you have any disabilities, you may not be allowed to get life insurance. Like no one's ever told me that. I'm 100% disabled through the VA. I mean, if you add up all the things that's wrong with me, I'm over 250% disabled.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a problem. Yeah.
And so, you think MetLife is going to be like, all right, let's give you a policy. We're going to give you a super low rate too. Yeah. They're going to look at me and be like, yeah, no, suck it, Trebek.
Yeah, no. Oh, okay. So things have not improved in that.
So many areas that.
Well, even just, it occurs just, okay, what motivates you? What could you do to have a life's purpose? Just that type of discussion, right?
Right. I mean, when I talk to veterans, I talk about, so I did a TED talk in November of 23, and it was really it was like transition through life like a Navy SEAL. And what I said is basically take your military training and apply that to transitioning into your next military mission. And I say my transition from the military to civilian life is the hardest military mission I've ever been on. And I'm still on that mission today. I'm still figuring it out because there's no roadmap, because I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm not a 9-to-5 employee. And I'm grateful for that. But it was, had I planned better while I was still in, and then I executed my plan as violently as I possibly could, I might be having a different conversation. But I kind of sort of halfway planned, and then I kind of halfway executed, and I had a lot of entitlement that I felt. I was like, but I've done all this other work. Shouldn't it be easy for me to, get clients and all this other stuff? And absolutely not. So I had to take that entitlement, which I hated in the first place, and then I hated myself for having I'm like, what? Get rid of that.
I did
Start
exactly
doing the
what
work.
I hate. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned about connection, whether it's with yourself, your loved ones, or your community?
Interesting. Connection. Connection is really about being able to put away distractions and focus on the person that you want to be with. Even if it's you just want to be with yourself. Connect with yourself. Be kind to yourself. So many people are unkind. And if you heard me when I'm frustrated, some of the sentences that come out of my mouth, you would not think that I am deeply connected with myself, but I actually am. I'm like, maybe I'm disappointed with myself with some of my actions if like I couldn't figure something out. But I learned probably not that long ago that self-love is probably the most important thing that you could do. If you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else because you're the person that you're around the most. So you have to connect with yourself, and then you can connect with someone else. And I talk about it in leadership. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anyone else. If you can't connect with yourself, you can't connect with someone else. If you can't love yourself, you can't love someone else. So you have to love yourself first. You have to connect with yourself first. But connection, with my fiance, I find that a lot of people want spontaneity, and that's great. I love spontaneity, but also I want to be very grounded and centered and focused on her when it's time for us to be together so that I am connected. I'm not like, I don't care what my phone says. I don't care if someone's calling me. I don't care about anything else. I just want to connect with her and just be close and have deep, meaningful conversations that are going to make our lives better.
How has all the work that you've done to this point kept you from, repeating old patterns in your relationship?
Well, I still do sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's self-awareness. It's being aware and, having those hard conversations with my partner to, she'll see things that I don't see. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. And she'll point it out to me. I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe I am.
But now with that self-love that you have for yourself, you're able to hear it.
Correct.
Without beating yourself up.
Enough. I oftentimes, it's easy for me to become defensive.
Yeah.
Which is it's natural. It's human. We will
human.
all be
Indeed.
It's the work that I've done is really to not react to what is being said. Take a minute, pause, and respond appropriately. And it's hard when there's a lot of stress in your life. Very hard. So, for example, my future brother-in-law, 3 weeks ago, had a seizure, passed out. They took him to the hospital, did a CAT scan of his brain, massive brain tumor. We jumped in the car, drove to and then they moved him up to Boston. We drove up there, and that was just stress on top of stress on top of stress on top of stress. And there were times where she would snap at me for something because I wasn't supporting her.
Very reactive.
And I was like, and I would just maybe deliver something right back.
Yeah.
Because it was as if I had done, I was taking it as if something I had done something, or she was accusing me of something. Yeah. She wasn't accusing me of something. She's expressing how she feels. And it had nothing to do with me. But I'm like, okay, get yourself together.
Step back.
Yep.
Repair.
Take a deep breath. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's if you can be in a less stressful environment, it's much easier to do that. But again, this goes back to preparation. This goes back to practice. If you practice it when times are good,
Yes.
Because none of us think that we need to practice when times are good. Not a one of us. And I preach this stuff and teach this stuff, and I still fall into the same category.
Yes.
But if you practice when times are good, it will be much easier to execute it when times are bad. So you have to practice it daily, or at least often. Step into those hard situations. It's like working out. Every year I do one very hard, epic thing. This year I haven't done it yet. Some people would say the swim across the Hudson River. It's a 3-mile
I
swim with a
feel
bunch
like
of
that's
push-ups and
pretty good. Yeah.
I'm like, I need something bigger. So last year I
Oh,
climbed
God.
Kilimanjaro.
You
The year
did?
before that I did the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim twice. The year before that I did the Grand Teton. And what I found is you're putting yourself into these really difficult situations.
Simulating.
Yeah, and you have to work your way through it and fight your way out of it. It's
You're
always a
practicing
fight.
for the hard times.
Correct. And so if you can do that mentally and emotionally, that is huge.
Yeah.
And if you add the physical aspect to it, if you're practicing it physically, mentally, and emotionally, you can't be broken. It doesn't matter how stressful it is, but you have to be disciplined to practice it even when the times are good. It's all about the preparation.
Banging your head against the wall trying to navigate the complexities of a relationship impacted by childhood trauma? It doesn't have to be this daunting. When you're married to a partner with unresolved childhood trauma, it can feel like you're walking on eggshells, never quite knowing what will set them off. No matter what you try, it feels like there's always something triggering another emotional response that seems completely out of context. And the harder you try to fix it, the more discouraged you feel. So what's the issue here? Navigating marriage with a trauma survivor is different. The love languages don't work. Date nights don't work. Self-help books don't help. But here's the good news. I've created something that does work. Something built from years of hard-earned lessons and real-life experience. Ready to take the first step toward real change? Let's talk. I'm offering a free one-on-one call where we'll dive into what's going on in your relationship and figure out a way forward together. This isn't just another quick chat. It's a chance to finally be heard, to share what you're going through with someone who truly gets it. No judgment, just real support. So if you're ready to start making sense of it all and find a little more peace in your marriage, book your free call now. Your happiness, your peace, and your relationship are worth it. Let's do it together.
Between a relationship where there is trust and authenticity, where you can be vulnerable and be fully accepted, no matter what happens to you, you're going to be there for each other. A relationship where you could talk about your weaknesses, and maybe you don't know why, maybe you're not in tune, maybe some people forget, or maybe they just push it out, but show your vulnerability, talk about emotional issues. I think intimacy is very difficult. We don't do that well, and especially now with these phones and like social media, so many people are sitting next to each other and just totally disconnected. But an authentic relationship where you can be vulnerable is definitely an antidote to having, again, maladaptive behaviors that make you push away reality or your anxiety or your fears, or you just, kind of avoid that. And so sometimes you can't have it with your partner because there's a lot of shame and a lot of blame, right? Whether it's for yourself or your parents or whatever happened to you. So therapy is hard. Or now we have all these somatic ways of working through some of our trauma along with therapy, whether it's yoga, doing body work, just releasing that tension and being whole. I think so many of us are fragmented and hide certain parts, and I'm doing, I retired 2 years ago. I've done a little journey of started to meditate and started to do some self work, and I'm learning about energy work, and we have energy centers, right? So some of this shame and guilt and loss and these feelings that are hard stay with us. They're part of our energy centers, whether in our heart or in our throat or in our gut. We have all different ways that we hold energy, and there's an opportunity in our lifetime to heal some of that energy, work through it. Ideally, you do it in partnership with a good partner that allows you to be authentic and do your work, and with friends that will support you, with circles of women that I think the power of women having each other is very it's so powerful, and finding the right community where you could be authentic. I also think all of us are messed up. I actually use the F word, so I don't know if you use that, but we are all fucked up. It's what we
Yeah.
do with it. That's
We all have stuff. We
yeah,
all have stuff that we're reactive to. Everybody does. Yeah.
absolutely. And when I
Yeah.
was young, I didn't believe that. I was told,
Yeah.
I started therapy and I was told, well, so what are your issues? I have no issues. Everything's great. And it's like, no, I'm humble enough to know we're all fucked up. It's what are we doing about it, and how are we going to be strategic and really choose a path and get there. I think we can also manifest our pathways very strategically, and overcome some of the pain and some of the burdens that we carry. So, yeah, that was a long answer.
Oh, I love it. So I love that you've been a pioneer. You were talking about how you were working with other organizations to bring evidence-based programs to schools, right? It was one of them called CBITS. What's
Yeah,
that one? What is
so
that?
CBITS. So 25 years ago,
CBITS.
yeah, so that
Okay.
25 years ago when I was working in one of these clinics in the San Fernando Valley, we had these UCLA scholars and RAND researchers who said, hey, how do you know that what you're doing works? And we're like, help us find out, right? So
Yeah.
as we were trying to meet, we always had to disrupt the meeting until we had a crisis in a school or something was, there was a shooting here or something, we got deployed,
Oh,
rearranged schedule. And so the researchers, our colleagues said, how often do these events happen? It's like every day, constantly, all over, you know? So that's where we started to ask, how often have you had a traumatic event? And then when we knew that was a significant portion, we developed a 10 session CBT, cognitive behavior therapy session, where we
oh,
taught kids about
nice.
trauma. We also pulled them individually so they could do their trauma narrative and tell their story and then reframe it. So really the power of doing this in a group is really amazing, because kids think they're the only ones, and then they find out no,
Yes.
it's something else happened to somebody else. And so what we learned there was that it was a very effective program that children actually got to finish because it was in schools.
Yes. You didn't
And
have to worry about the family being able
right,
to bring them.
right. And then children
Indeed.
came to school, right? And then they were able to connect it to their academic success. They attended better, they finished school better. So we had a lot of exciting, innovative practices happening in schools. And we taught teachers about this. This is what's happening in your classroom. So they learned better skills as well.
I like that. I love it. And so, what are some of the lessons from those interventions that you think could also help adults repair and strengthen their relationships?
Well, the biggest thing I think is really basic is the psychoeducation, which is
Yeah.
learning about trauma, right?
Yeah.
What it is and how it will affect your sometimes sleeping, learning why you're behaving certain ways, and giving yourself time to know that you're adjusting. So this whole concept of trauma, right, it's been fascinating for me to remind people that have had a traumatic event to be really kind to yourself within the first 3 months, and then really observe things that are impacting your daily living. Be kind to yourself. We tend to numb ourselves, like push it away, or get frustrated or work out harder, and really listening to our body, listening to our instincts, and then even taking it to 6 months after a traumatic event. If things are not getting back to normal, like really asking for help. Like it's okay to not be okay and get help. So that psychoeducation is one of the very basic, to teach also parents, expect children to not sleep well. So unfortunately, again, we just had another national tragedy with a school shooting. That community is not going to be okay for a very long time. So you can't expect children to be well, right? So it is important for them to get back to a routine. It is important to get back to a school, but maybe not have a spelling test or a lesson plan, just being together. So we've learned a lot about what works and how to re-engage folks. But we're still making
Yeah, it isn't just get back to normal. That's not the answer.
No.
Just go back to normal.
And
No.
also that there are ways to digest this, whether it's talk therapy or body work, breath work, meditation. I mean, it really it's a whole. Again, your energy centers are really an opportunity to shift back to optimum level when they're not, because they've been disrupted and they've been impacted.
Yeah, I love that because I've talked to a lot of survivors on this show, and almost all of them didn't have just one thing that worked, right? It was a combination of things that really helped them heal. And for every one of them, it's just a little bit different, right? So there is no cookie cutter approach. It's about trying all new, different tactics and adding them together and coming up with your own special soup, right? Or special sauce that works for you and
Yeah.
not giving up.
Well, also, like when you take this concept of digesting some things, letting go and being
Yeah.
able to move forward. So you make room
Yeah.
for new activities. So because some folks have such a hard time, they disengage, or they don't get back to normal, and it spirals in a negative way. And there's opportunities with very, very sensitive and care to get back. And ideally, one of the things that got me really jazzed when I was doing so much trauma work, and it could get really, really hard, and the burnout is real. The concept of post-traumatic growth was something that was very interesting to me, because it talked about resilience and it talked about a strength base. So there are very, very few folks that, after experiencing trauma, have this reawakening and this realignment and re-meaning of life, and they do better. And you see a lot of folks that become public speakers or become our role models. They did something that was bring new meaning and really had growth from a traumatic experience. I don't think we can say, while someone is going through it or going through very difficult times, hey, can't wait, it's going to get better. And it's like, you're going to have post-traumatic growth. No, it doesn't happen like that. But 10, 15 years down the line, you really can look back and say, these things had to happen for me to become the person that I am today. I can tell you that for my situation, that it's been about 15 years. I would have never imagined that my life would be what it is without having gone through the traumatic situations that I did. So there is post-traumatic growth. Ultimately, you have to be strategic, you have to be intentional, and you have to work towards that. It doesn't just happen.
Oh, I love that post-traumatic growth. That's amazing. Yes. So it's basically making a silver lining.
Yes.
What happened to you?
Yeah.
Oh, which is just
Well, and it's not just one thing. Like you said, there's
no.
different things that happen in childhood,
Yeah.
adolescence, and then then we marry into it, then we have our families. I had this public arena, but I've gone back to my family as well of a lot of healing and my small circle. There's a lot of work to be done for all of us across every sphere that we move in and out of.
Well, you have done some super amazing things. Oh my gosh, you should be very proud of how much you've done in this space, especially since I know you're reflecting.
Some folks, I've done some of my why work, right? The why, and some folks spend a lot of time figuring out what is my purpose, what is my mission,
Yeah.
and it's very clear for me that it's to serve and to help others, really be on earth and have better skills to go through this journey on earth, because it's challenging and it's also a great opportunity with hope. But serving others brings me a lot of healing, and it reminds me of the journey. So yeah, I feel very grateful, but I feel like being of service continues. It's a forever.
Of course. Yeah, I can't imagine ever letting this go, right? Till my death, great. Till I'm on my deathbed. Well, one last question for you. If you could distill your decades of experience into three non-negotiable practices for maintaining healthy relationships in the face of trauma, what would those three things be?
Non-negotiable practices.
Yeah.
One is meditation. For me, meditation is key. I have some really good days of meditation where it's magical experience, and I have some hard ones. So sometimes when I can't meditate, I just look at a candle and just bring peace and calm to my brain. I think doing your own work is very important so that you could be authentic. And so meditation, doing all kinds of work to just be at your very best, because that roller coaster is
Yeah.
daily consistent, but also so you can be authentic, so you can have authentic conversations and have real conversations. Like if there's a really hard topic to discuss with my partner, I have a current partner that we've learned intimacy, and we both have done some hard work, and they're genuine conversations. We try not to have them too much because they're draining, but they're very purposeful. They're real, where we really can share our weaknesses, our feelings, and be vulnerable, and just love one another. So that that love unconditional it's always conditional in this world for many reasons, but you can get to it if you're really genuinely focus on what you want to express and how you want to have that conversation. So being authentic is really.
Yeah, I think so many of us, especially, lose ourselves. We don't even remember what we love anymore, right? Um,
Oh my gosh, when I first went into well, not first, but after being a mom and went to therapy, because I went to therapy across my graduate school. I was a mom, I worked, and I was a wife, and I was a daughter, and I was all these roles. And
yeah.
the therapist gave me an assignment that was just beyond, like it just blew me away. I had to list 10 things that I really liked to do, or who like that represented me. And
Yeah.
I couldn't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
Like, whoa, all I do is
Yeah.
take the kids and
Yeah. And so it was like, well, I liked reading good books at one point, good novels, and I liked walking, and like, what did I like? I mean, who
Yeah.
am I, right?
Yes.
And so the next
Yes.
thing was I had to pick 3 and implement 3. And it was like, that changed my life. I took baths, and it was like, it is so hard to think about you when you're taking care of everybody, and who are you, right? And then what are your boundaries? What does that look like? And so you
How
really,
do you make those things a priority?
Well, that's why I'm saying being authentic. You can't just say, "Hey, I need this because this is my bad." Like, no, you know what really will work if I can just take a bath and
Yeah.
do it in a
I
way
love this.
where
I
it's
love this.
communicating things because you want everyone to be well, but you need this, right? So how do you really learn to communicate your boundaries or what you need or what works for you? Sometimes the templates, we have to follow these templates. Everybody's doing it this way. It's like, no, let's do it a little differently because this may work for us. And then other people start looking at you saying, hey, really? You could do things differently. You don't have to follow the
No.
leader and do it like
Date nights every Tuesday? No, you don't have to.
no,
Doesn't work
what
for you.
works? But
Yeah.
what is your ideal date? It could be totally different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be brunch, could be coffee, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So your one was breathing meditation,
Mhm.
inner,
Yeah.
like soul searching. Don't you think? I agree with that one. I mean,
Well,
because you can't even come up with the things that you love that you were like you were just talking about unless you have a space to
right. And
allow
it's not
yourself to go
brain in
there.
your mind. So you get out of your
Yeah.
mind and you
Yeah.
have beautiful visions and you start seeing, just meditation just stops the madness for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Being
second,
authentic, right?
well, yeah, the second is just all work relating to being well
Being
yourself
well, right?
in
Working on
order to
yourself.
be an authentic and lead an authentic life with
Yeah.
your children, with your family, and that's hard.
Work.
Yeah. And with everyone, yeah, it's really hard, but I think you have
Yeah.
to do that work to be able to, it makes you really proud of yourself after. So yeah, I'm very proud of myself, but I know that the work continues. It's never
Yeah.
easy.
No, we're never, no. Do you
Yeah.
have a third one?
Mapping out. I'm mapping out like what my intention is for the day.
Oh my goodness. I hope that you guys loved those interviews as much as I did. I learned so much from each one of them, and they brought so much wisdom to the table. But I want to leave you with the real deal. My three biggest takeaways I want you to take from these episodes and these interviews, and I hope you'll actually start trying this week. Number one, trauma does not live in the past, it echoes into the present and future. The money stories you carry, the way you see yourself, the love you give or withhold, all of it's shaped by what came before. But here's the good news: you have the power to create a new story. When you love yourself, you can love others more fully. And when you change the narrative, you can change the legacy. And number two, clarity without action is just theory. You guys, the mindset shifts and strategies that you've heard today only create change if you actually put them into practice. So don't wait for the perfect moment. Just take one small step today. Action is what builds resilience and moves you forward. And number three, I hope you guys all heard this in every single one of the conversations that I had just had, but you want to practice when times are good. Don't wait for the fight, the crisis, or the meltdown to build new habits. Have money talks when you're both calm. Practice regulating your nervous system when stress is low, and work your tools when life feels steady. That's how you prepare yourself to stay grounded when things get really hard. So remember, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a legacy, and that is worth every single step. Thank you so much for tuning in, my friends. If this episode hit home for you, share it with someone who needs a little more hope and healing in their life. And as always, I'll see you next week for more Love and Trauma, the real deal.
All right, that's a wrap for today on Love and Trauma, the real deal. Big thanks to my guests for sharing their insights. Couldn't have done it without you. Now, for those of you looking to take this journey further, I've got something special. Head to my website to grab Real Tactics, Real Healing, a survivor's playbook for navigating a relationship with a trauma survivor. It's packed with everything you need to know, do, and say to navigate the emotional minefield, find your balance, and regain your self-worth and happiness.